How long have you been doing this, Rob? Who are you with? What do you do? Let's let our listeners know why we have you on the show on a regular basis. We know why, but there's a lot of wealth of knowledge behind your experience.
I certainly appreciate it, and it is very important to set a level of credibility. There's a lot of fly-by-night people in my industry. There's a lot of stay-at-home moms who got a child into Yale, and so they are now convinced they are college counselors because their child had success in the game. That is not how it works.
I wish it was that easy, huh? One time?
If that was the case, there'd be a lot of college counselors who knew exactly what they were doing. That is not how it works.
Hey, I've thrown a strike. I'm a good bowler now, right?
Not exactly. To give a little background on where I came from and how I ended up in this chair sitting across from you guys today, I went to UCLA for my bachelor's degree, which is in not U.S., it's in political science and business administration, which many of your listeners can tell I'm using right now. Graduated from there, applied to graduate school because I wasn't ready to be a grown-up yet, and got into some good graduate schools. Got into Claremont, got into UC Santa Barbara. Claremont, I was on half tuition scholarship. I just couldn't make the rest work. I didn't have the family support at that time, so I decided I know what I'll do. I'll pick the least expensive not community college, but graduate program I can find, and ended up at Cal State Northridge, which at the
go
time,
Matadors.
Go Matadors, which was right down the street from where I lived at the time, where I picked up a master's in U.S. and military history, which your listeners can tell that is something I'm still using right now. And became kind of a jack of all trades, master of some. I've worked at some organizations I'm certain your listeners are familiar with. I spent some time at NASA. I spent some time at Morgan Stanley. For a little over 8 years now, I've been at the Princeton Review, where I'm a territory manager in the San Fernando Valley office. So I work with families and schools from Monrovia to Santa Barbara. And I'm a regular speaker throughout the state of California.
Yeah, you're always speaking, by the way. I mean, every time I reach out to you, you're like traveling somewhere to go speak to, pretty big audiences, too.
I think we did a quick count of January. I think I spoke to a little over 2,000 people in the month of January alone.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, we get audiences all over the place, and they learn something new. And I want to make sure that the status quo is challenged. I want to make sure that families realize this is not a conversation you're going to pick up in church or one that you're going to pick up, down the street with a neighbor, and you're going to know exactly what you're doing. This takes a little more work.
Yeah, Rob, what I'm thinking about here, as you mentioned, you hit the nail on the head, is that it's not, I think people forget that colleges are marketing machines. That's what they do. They are really just a huge marketing company to get their name out for people to apply. So at the end of the day, you're getting people people go to Harvard for the same reason they drink Coca-Cola over Pepsi sometimes. And you're here to help them make the right decision to make sure they're not just picking something for the label, but they're picking it for what's on the inside.
Don, I'm sorry.
That's a gold star.
That's 2 gold stars.
Yeah, that was really
That
good.
is an incredible observation. You're 100% correct. That is exactly what happens. And we get into this idea of I have to go to the top-ranked school. That is the number one thing I run into. U.S. News and World Report has put a monopoly on the ranking universe when it comes to colleges and universities. Here's our problem. Will your children judge their best fit colleges on factors like how deep the endowment pool is at a college or university? I'm pretty comfortable saying it's nothing that has even crossed their minds before. It is a very significant percentage of the weighting system that U.S. News and World Report uses in creating their lists.
Of
so
course.
you start to see that the judgments of U.S. News and World Report versus the judgments of the average 17 or 18-year-old child have very little in common. So their lists have very little in common.
Not to mention, one of the other things, if you go to one of these incredibly competitive schools, because I'm assuming that a lot of the great students do end up at these schools because of the marketing program that gets them there. I think the other thing that you take into consideration is, do I want to be the absolute best at a smaller school, or do I want to be lost in the shuffle at a better school?
Again, terrific question. I think even a bigger question than that is the perception that if you go to a Harvard, a Yale, a Princeton, a Stanford, you automatically will get into the best law school, med school, dental school, business school. You get the idea. That is not necessarily true. As a matter of fact, you actually make it harder on yourself because the competition is so great. So let's say you are at Harvard and you're working to your absolute capacity and you're a 3.3, 3.4 student.
Because of the competition.
Because of the competition.
I mean, they still have bell curves there.
They do. And so let's say you do well but not You don't blow your own bell curve on the MCAT or the LSAT or the GRE or the GMAT, the major entrance exams for graduate school. Your dream just flew out the door. But you could have gone to UNLV or Cal State Northridge or University of New Mexico or any other school in the country, blown their bell curve, been a 3.940 student, rocked the MCAT or the LSAT, and now you are in at one of the top 5 law school or medical school programs in the country.
Well, I'm sure you can back me up on this, Rob, because I did a little bit of research myself regarding the school we went to, which is Cal State Northridge, and a lot of times it is one school versus another based their rankings and so forth. But then again, some of the employers actually know what kind of education level they get at each school. And believe it or not, I know Cal State Northridge for business was ranked very high in the state and was not one of the ranked or premier or popular schools. It's just a Cal State program. But I know their business finance was ranked, I think, top 6 in the state at some point.
It would not surprise me at all that that is a true statement. There's also something to be said for this idea of you're going to a particular school to get what? You're not just there to get a bumper sticker for a car or a mug for mom or a sweater for dad. You're there to learn something. What do you want to learn? I can't tell you how many times I've run across kids who say, I really want to study entrepreneurial business and I want to do it at UCLA. And I say, you have a small problem here. They don't have that degree option.
That's why I ended up at Northridge. They have a great finance school.
Absolutely.
Hey, wait, what do I do? How about that?
You're one of the few students who actually picked a major, you stuck with it, you got your degree, and you do something with it.
Yeah, how about that?
In the modern era, that requires a lot of planning. It requires students to actually ask the tough and interesting questions about themselves to understand, hey, why am I going to this particular place and what am I going to do with the information that I learn, and will this give me opportunities to be successful? We make the mistake of assigning a dollar value to a name. It has nothing to do with where you come from. It has a lot more to do with if you're going to play that game where you get your PhD, your MD, your JD, your advanced degree, your MBA, or what are you majoring in? I know plenty of people who will go to schools you guys have never, ever heard of, who make sick money when they graduate because they're in electrical engineering, petroleum engineering.
Very popular these days.
Very popular these days. They're in the upper echelons of software design. They do some really interesting things, and they're creative people. So that they went to the New Mexico School of Technology and Mining in the middle of nowhere in Socorro, New Mexico with 1,000 kids is irrelevant. That they're going to make $100,000 when they graduate is very relevant.
No doubt about that. No doubt. All right, if you just tuned to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show, we're here with Robert Schwartz with Premier College Guidance. He is our Premier College Planner. He's been on our show many, many times, sharing with you stuff that you really should think about, and he's helping educate all of us. I know we learn something every time you're here, Rob. And he's going over, how to choose the right college. Now you've had quite a few acceptance letters. Now what? And you have to make a decision in most cases by May 1st, right?
Correct.
So it's time to be really thinking about what your options are. Rob, I know I'm looking through this list. We didn't even hit all these little idiosyncrasies that everybody should be thinking about. So we can share some more when we come right back.
We have much more to talk about.
Very nice. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure to check us out at donandgino.com. We actually have 3 video cameras watching the show. You can watch it too. Make sure you get tuned in. We're waving to you now. Do not go away. More great stuff coming up.